Witchfinder General from Stourbridge, England was formed in 1979 by vocalist Zeeb Parkes and guitarist Phil Cope, who named the band after a 1968 British horror film. They'd be joined by Johnny Fisher on bass and Steve Kinsella on drums to record a demo in 1980, which helped get them signed to Heavy Metal Records. With Kevin "Toss" McCready replacing Johnny Fisher on bass, Witchfinder General would release their first single, Burning a Sinner, in 1981. The early Black Sabbath influence is undeniable, with slow, gloomy riffs, but has more of an 80s attitude mixed in, giving this some strong proto-doom metal vibes. And Zeeb's voice definitely has an Ozzy Osbourne quality to it, while still maintaining his own sound. While the production is noticeably crude on this single, and it's a fairly straightforward track overall, there's still some very cool guitar work from Phil here. The B-side, Satan's Children, continues the Black Sabbath feel, but picks up the tempo a bit. Also, Zeeb's quirky vocal squeak is a lot more apparent on this track too. Due to the unflattering production, the studio offered Witchfinder General an additional day of recording. This gave the band time to put down 3 more tracks, which would become the Soviet Invasion EP, released in 1982. The clear highlight on here is easily the title track, featuring a thick, heavy doom riff with only light percussion and acoustic guitar underneath, making it feel even more intense. Once again, Phil lays down some very cool guitar passages with a tone that is absolutely spot on, delivering a perfectly foreboding atmosphere. Side 2 contains a couple of decent yet far less essential tracks including R.I.P., which is listed as being live, but was actually just recorded live in the studio with an audience dubbed in, since the band didn't have much time to work on the song. Heavy Metal Records would ask Witchfinder General to do a full album after this, but Steve Kinsell and Kevin McCready declined to sign the contract and left the band. They'd bring on drummer Graham Ditchfield, but with no time to find a bassist, Phil Cope would cover both bass and guitar for their debut album, Death Penalty. Death Penalty is an excellent half hour of new wave British heavy metal, with side 1 featuring a nice variety of tempos, kicking off with album opener Invisible Hate. And this is followed by my favorite track off the album, Free Country, with a speedier, more aggressive feel and another badass riff. Then track 3, the title track, takes things in the other direction, going for a more overall doom metal vibe. It still owes a lot to Tony Iommi and Black Sabbath, but Witchfinder General incorporates more of a heavy metal attitude and punkish energy. Along with new versions of the 2 songs included on the original Burning a Sinner single, side 2 stays mostly in the mid-tempo range with more heavy, doom-leaning tracks.
You witches are evil, you worship the devil, so listen to what I say. Peacefully from at your hearts, I'll have you witches pray. Must destroy you, cleanse you, watch you wither away. Who's coming to get you? It's coming to take you away. Find you guilty, witch woman, because I'm the Witchfinder General.
And again, along with his wild leads and crushing riffs, we get more fiery, energetic soloing from Phil. Although this album is perhaps most well known for its risque album cover showing naked boobs, which I unfortunately had to edit. And in order to still appear like a four-piece, they'd be joined on the cover by friend of the band, Crave Rockersmith. After the release of Death Penalty, Witchfinder General were contacted by Saxon's manager, who was looking for a band to open for them on tour. This required a separate bass player, so they'd bring on bassist Rod Hawks. But unfortunately, the audition for the tour didn't go as planned, and they missed out on getting the gig. We just was not ready. It wasn't Rod, he played brilliant, but we had just lost track with the live scene and he told us so, and we failed it miserably. It may have been due to Zeeb's own PA, it was really crap. Story of the band really, just another failure. We never really took it serious. But Witchfinder General would still head back into the studio in 1983 to record their second album, Friends of Hell.
Say your life be wasted. Say there's nothing left. You've been so disillusioned, living on your path. Call our best to meet me under our favorite tree. Say this must be real bad. Physical on me.
Friends of Hell is another badass heavy metal doom album, and I might even like it a little more overall than the fantastic Death Penalty. The Sabbath vibe is there, but it feels like the band have grown a bit more as songwriters, and the inclusion of an actual bassist both gives this one a boomier sound and also allows Phil to focus even more on creating hellaciously punchy riffs.
Kiss her once upon the cheek, her arms they embrace me. She whispers softly while caressing, darling, can you see? We both make love so passionate, our feelings they must show. The climax is now they fulfill, her eyes they close, oh no.
Nearly every song on here is a banger, and while there's a heavy focus on doom vibes throughout, there's also a healthy amount of up-tempo, new wave sounding material like Last Chance.
Where do we come from now? Where do we go? Just follow me. Now and then we'll show you the beginning, yeah. Where the end. You think they're happy, but you know they only pretend, yeah.
Or Music, a track that's heavy as hell, yet somehow still incredibly catchy.
Each and everyone. I need music for you. Why do I need music every day? Why need music for you? Why do I need music every day?
The more apparent Black Sabbath influenced numbers are found toward the end of the album, with Shadowed Images offering up some bluesy 70s touches, and one of my favorites off Friends of Hell, Quietus Reprise, which delivers some excellent Sabbath-based doom metal.
Servitude you escape from, now you've got to hide. Servitors are coming in from the other side.
But it still never feels derivative, even with Zeeb's very Aussie sounding vocals, and instead takes that classic blues metal sound and uses it to help build the foundation for 80s doom.
Irrationally, you want the skinny tonight. The night is irreversible by daylight. It's been to get you, it's a train. It's got you where you want you with the pain.
The only only kind of weird outlier on here is the aimless Witchfinder General ballad, I Lost You.
I loved you, but lost you. You were so untrue. Yes, I loved you, but lost you. Why didn't I listen to you, mama?
But once again, the highlight of the album is the cover, this time with 3 sets of naked boobs. This time they're back to a 3-piece though, with Graham Ditchfield being credited as a session player only, since he was let go from the band after recording due to a perceived lack of commitment. Looking back on Friends of Hell now, it's got its moments, but I don't think the material stood up to Death Penalty. I think I personally let the band down slightly on that because the writing was rushed. On Death Penalty, some tracks were in the band for a couple of years before we recorded that, whereas this one was basically wrote in a month. But it certainly had its moments. I'm still proud of it. With a tour of England coming up, Witchfinder General would bring on drummer Derm Redmond. However, with the release of the album getting delayed, it turned into another disaster. It was a handful of gigs, really, around the country, and we had dropped a lot of the earlier material. Soviet Invasion, Rabies, R.I.P., Satan's Children. They was all dropped because we had enough material from Friends of Hell. The only trouble is when we toured, the album was delayed. People were shouting for our old stuff. I don't think Rod had even learned the early stuff, so we was up against it. The tour didn't go down as it should. About a month later, the album got released. Another really good cock-up. The band would spend all of their money getting out of their contract with Heavy Metal Records, but unfortunately, a deal for their next album never came through, and Witchfinder General would split up in the summer of 1984. Zeeb was apparently fed up with the music business at this point, and Phil would stop playing guitar for over 20 years. But with the resurgence of interest due to reissues of their 2 albums, Witchfinder General would reform in 2007. This time with Phil Cope on guitar, Rod Hawks on bass, Derm Redmond on drums, and Gary Martin on vocals. This lineup would record the 3rd Witchfinder General album, Resurrected, in 2008.
Sanity and madness, your mind's in disarray. The poison thoughts and actions I preach to you each day. To you life has no meaning. To kill is just a game.
From a riffage standpoint, Resurrected does a good job representing the doom metal riffs you'd expect from a Witchfinder General album. But unfortunately, Gary just isn't a great fit. His range seems pretty limited, so he kind of yells everything, and his vocals are mixed too loud, which makes them even more difficult to listen to.
Devote your love to your master. For brave human disaster. Rivers of blood on the streets. In this living hell.
The Black Sabbath vibes are there, so it's a good effort, but the issues with the vocals make it difficult to really dig into this one.
The chance has come, pay back your dues. There's no time left, nothing to lose. Experimenting drugs is no way out. Your body bag's ready under a shadow of a doubt, yeah.
While there are fans of this album out there, Resurrected did little to jumpstart new life into Witchfinder General, and after this, they'd break up for good. But their legacy and influence on heavy metal remain intact, and their early albums are still awesome. So of course your homework is Death Penalty from 1982 and Friends of Hell from 1983. I'll put Soviet Invasion under extra credit since the title track is one of my favorites from Witchfinder General and definitely worth a listen. I hope you enjoyed this look back at Witchfinder General, an outstanding band that just couldn't seem to catch a break, but luckily was able to leave us with 2 badass albums of doom metal. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.